At first glance, the world's shipping map looks almost impossibly large. Thousands of ports, tens of thousands of ships, millions of containers crossing oceans every year. But zoom in. Some of the most important lines on that map squeeze through passages only a few dozen kilometers wide. And when one of those passages becomes dangerous, crowded, or blocked, the consequences do not stay local. A ship may turn around in the Middle East, and days later, a factory on the other side of the planet can be waiting for a component. Fuel prices can move. Freight rates can rise. Delivery schedules can unravel. So who, or what, really controls global trade? The answer is not a single country, company, or port. It is geography. More than 80% of goods traded worldwide by volume move by sea. That means the global economy depends on a physical network that cannot simply be replaced with a digital connection. And hidden inside that network are choke points. Narrow passages where enormous amounts of traffic are concentrated. The first clue to their power is the Suez Canal. The canal cuts across Egypt, connecting the Mediterranean with the Red Sea. For ships moving between Europe and Asia, it can eliminate a huge detour around southern Africa. In March 2021, that vulnerability became impossible to ignore. The container ship Ever Given ran aground inside the canal. For almost a week, traffic was blocked. One vessel had become a wall across one of the world's most important shortcuts. The event was temporary, but the lesson was permanent. Shipping networks have very little tolerance for delays. And the Suez story has another layer. The canal does not exist by itself. To reach it from the Indian Ocean, ships pass through the Bab el-Mandeb, the narrow gateway between the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. When attacks on commercial shipping intensified from late 2023, many carriers began avoiding this route. The alternative was simple in theory: sail around the Cape of Good Hope. But the detour adds distance, fuel, time, and uncertainty. And that brings us to another choke point: the Strait of Hormuz. At its narrowest, the waterway is only about 33 kilometers wide. But its importance is enormous because it sits beside some of the world's largest oil-producing states. A huge share of the world's seaborne oil trade passes through this narrow gateway. That makes Hormuz different from Suez, but strategically just as important. One controls a shortcut between major markets. The other sits beside a vital energy corridor. Then there is the Panama Canal, which solves a completely different geographic problem. Instead of sailing around South America, ships can cross the narrow Panamanian Isthmus. But canals have limits too. They can be disrupted by drought, accidents, maintenance, or simple congestion. In 2023 and 2024, unusually low water levels forced the Panama Canal to reduce transits. That meant some ships waited, some paid more, and some chose longer routes. The pattern is becoming clear. Choke points are powerful because alternatives are expensive. And the biggest choke points are not always canals. Some are natural straits, shaped by geography over millions of years. The Strait of Malacca is one of them, and it connects the Indian Ocean with the Pacific. It sits beside some of the world's busiest ports and manufacturing economies. So a disruption there can ripple through energy markets, manufacturing, and consumer goods. And that is the real secret of a choke point: concentration. The more routes depend on one narrow passage, the greater its leverage. And leverage does not always mean someone closes the route. Sometimes the possibility of disruption is enough to change decisions. Shipping companies watch these locations constantly because time is money. A delay of hours can become a delay of days once schedules begin to cascade.
Containers miss ports. Factories wait for parts. Retailers wait for inventory.
This is why a maritime bottleneck can become an economic bottleneck. But there is another layer to the story. Who controls the infrastructure itself? Because a choke point is not just geography. It is infrastructure, rules, and once we see that, the map starts looking very different. Suddenly, the world is no longer a collection of countries and oceans. It becomes a network of narrow passages, connecting everything together. And that network has weak points. The most famous example may be the Strait of Malacca. But the same principle appears far beyond Southeast Asia. There are passages where geography, politics, and economics overlap. That is where choke points become geopolitical pressure points. A country near one can gain enormous strategic importance without being a superpower. Because controlling access can matter more than controlling territory. And that is why the smallest lines on a map can carry the biggest consequences.